Hi, Prof.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Thank
Ni
you
hao.
for... Ni hao. Okay, do you want to conduct this in Chinese?
Yeah, sure. Every question you ask, I'll go, 我不知道.
Wow. I think we can end this very soon if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, anyways, okay, from a lot of your articles, you have never hide the fact that you are a football fans.
Yes.
And now it's the friends, it's the World Cup fever now. What's your prediction?
Well, if I was a betting man, but I'm not because it's illegal, I would bet on Belgium.
But Belgium will be against France, right?
Yeah, no problem. The French are weak. But,
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Belgians are quite solid. I think they underestimated the Japanese and they messed up. But generally, I think they're quite strong. So I'm hoping it'll be someone different. I mean, like, since the World Cup started, there's only been 8 countries which have won. So it's nice
Yes.
to have someone new.
Belgium.
Yeah.
Yep, but it's still from the Europe continent.
There's no one else. You know,
We're
Neymar
so-
has rolled away.
We are so lack of choices. Okay, anyways, hopefully that your prediction is gonna be a little bit more accurate than what you predict out of the GE14.
That's very bad. That's very naughty.
It shows that I read your article.
Yes, you did. But I wasn't the only one. Nobody thought.
Don't worry, even us.
Yeah, nobody thought this was going to happen, right? Nobody.
But it has been 2 months. How do you feel now? You have been observing and following all this development closely ever since the new government coming into place. How do you feel now?
I'm still quite excited. I'm still quite shocked. I'm actually a bit lost because, all my grown-up life I've been fighting Barisan Nasional UMNO. So suddenly I don't know what to do.
So there's no one that you can criticize
I
now.
know. I'm waiting for Pakatan to mess up so I can so I can say something. But it's still very early. I mean, Parliament hasn't even sat. They just sorted out the cabinet. What, yesterday? Yeah, or was it today? The cabinet? No, yesterday. I think the cabinet was just sorted out yesterday. So we still have to wait and see how it's going to work. But so far, I mean, like, really, they're making the right sounds. The Minister of Health is trying to cut the ridiculous kind of spending which is happening via middlemen.
Okay.
The new Minister of Foreign Affairs has said that we want to ratify a whole bunch of human rights treaties, which is very good. And Malaysia is not even party to the Convention Against Torture.
Yes.
It's like we like torture, So that's a good thing.
Yes.
Mujahid, as Minister for Religious Affairs, is also very good because he's very knowledgeable, but at the same time he's got a very progressive mind. He's a very inclusive man. So I think the pieces are in place for a government which could be an excellent government. I mean, they won't be perfect. Nobody's perfect, but the pieces are there, and it's all in place. And I'm hoping that they will prove to this country, and to the Malay voter in particular, that the country can move forward for everyone without having to use the old way of doing things.
Why the Malay voter in particular?
Come on, that is the key demographic which determines the future of this country.
That's true.
All right, we cannot deny that. Okay, we're talking about 60% of the voting population, and they are Malay. And and let's not forget, in the last elections, quite a lot of them still voted for UMNO, still voted for PAS, right? So if you want a more progressive government, if you want a government which is not obsessed about race, not obsessed about religion, but respects both, then we have to make sure that we don't go back to the old days. All right, and for that to happen, the best way for that to happen is if Pakatan does such a good job that everybody thinks, well, what's the point? This is cool. This is the way it should be. There's no need to go back to the racist kind of things which UMNO used to do. There's no need to be ultra religious like PAS. We can all develop together in a fair and just manner. So that is a big responsibility, and that's their job now. And I think they can do it. They're quite smart. I mean, look at the cabinet. But then, compared to the past, right?
It's not too high.
It's not too hard.
It's not too hard,
The
right?
standard is not too high.
Oh gosh, we are still bashing them.
I can't help it.
Okay, anyways, you mentioned that you're waiting for Pakatan Harapan to mess up a little bit so that
So I have something to say.
yeah, you have something to say. But do you actually, I'm just gonna bring in a little bit of skepticism or whatever. Do you think there is something that you are already watching closely, that some place or some areas that
For sure. I mean, like Mat Sabu recently said that they might not repeal the National Security Council Act.
Yeah.
Okay, now Mat Sabu is cuddly and cute and all the rest of it, but I'm sorry, that is wrong. You promised to get rid of that law. You must get rid of that law. All right? And because it's a bad law. And it's so easily abused. And we already have enough laws to do what the NSC is supposed to do.
Yes.
All right? Because we have emergency provisions, etc. Another thing is that the cabinet only has barely 20% women. Now, they promised 30% of women in policy-making positions, whatever that means, right? Okay, the cabinet is the biggest policy-making body. There should be at least 30% women in the cabinet. Now, I actually believe that quotas has its place, as long as it's done transparently, as long as there's a legitimate reason, and in this case there is a legitimate reason because we're talking about gender equity, and as long as there's a sunset clause. You don't have quotas forever.
Yes.
You have a quota only until the objectives have been achieved. If we do that, I don't see what's wrong with having a quota, because the number of women in positions of authority in this country is disproportionately small. It's very, very tiny. How many women federal court judges do we have? How many women CEOs? These are the questions we have to ask. And the government could play a major role in changing this. And they should have.
Yeah, since you raised the issue of quota, do you think we still need quota in public universities?
We need to have a look at the actual situation in this country. All right? And I think a lot of public universities actually don't have quotas anymore. Not
really?
direct quotas. Okay. My feeling is that we don't need it anymore. All right. There's a definite difference between the economic situation of the nation in 2018 compared to 1970.
Yes.
There's a huge difference. All right. I don't think there is really a need for it. I mean, in terms of education, what we should be looking at is to make sure that every single school is of a high quality, right? So that means it doesn't matter if I am studying in Gua Cempedak, in a small school, or if I'm in the heart of Petaling Jaya, the quality of education I have is the same. That is what's important, all right? In terms of scholarships, etc., I think it should be based on need. If your family are poor, you get scholarship. If your family has money, don't need lah. Just ask your dad or your mom, So I don't see what's wrong with that. I think that's where we should be moving to. But your question is, should we have race-based policies?
Yes.
No, of course not. We should be moving away from this. And let me remind our listeners or watchers or
Audience.
They see us, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. Let me remind our viewers, okay, that the provisions in the Constitution which were placed to provide for race-based affirmative action, that was done in 1956, 57, right? Okay. At that time, when this was put in, the rulers of that time said that, okay, you have this now, but we've envisioned a time when the country doesn't need this anymore. So the ruling elite of that time didn't want this to be something which went on forever. So we have to look at things in an intelligent and in a calm manner and see whether, look, is this necessary now? If it's not, then we have to get rid of it. But the trouble is, you can't look at it in a calm manner because one, there are laws which are still preventing open discussion of this. The Sedition Act is one.
Okay.
And there are all these morons who will scream and shout without making any sense, which could muddy the waters. All right? But if we want to move forward, this is what we've got to do. We've got to be intelligent, we've got to be rational, we've got to be calm, and then we can move forward.
Okay. So you mentioned like a few bad laws, or a lot of bad laws are still in place, like the sedition law. So, as a law teacher, what do you think that the new administration has to get rid of as soon as possible?
Well, like I said, the National Security Council Act, the Sedition Act. There are certain laws which have to be amended. You don't necessarily have to get rid of it. I think the University Colleges Act can be amended. It doesn't need to be repealed. The Printing Presses Publications Act, that has to change, particularly with regards to the power of the minister to withdraw the license. I mean, like Sinchu, they can withdraw your license tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Minister of Home Affairs now, isn't it? So that's Muhyiddin. Muhyiddin can withdraw your license tomorrow. I mean, he probably won't, but he still has that power, right? So that has to go. So that's just 4 examples of laws which I think definitely either have to be repealed or to be changed.
A lot of things about, we have bad laws, but also people have very little faith with our judiciary, with our legal system. Do you think the new government can restore this faith?
I think so. It might take a bit of time, but I do think so. It might require quite dramatic action. So, for example, the appointment of Tommy Thomas as Attorney General, that was quite dramatic because you're taking someone from outside the system, right? But I think that was necessary because in terms of the public's perception, they need to be sure that the Attorney General is not someone who's tainted by the previous regime, right? So, and this might be unfair. I mean, there might be really good people in the AG's chambers. I don't know. I don't know every single one of them.
Yes.
But the point is, the view of the people is that you were all part of that old gang, So sometimes you need to do something drastic first to just get the ball rolling. All right. With regards to the judiciary, it's a bit more sensitive because on the one hand, the independence of the judiciary is still important. We don't want the government to be interfering too much in the judiciary, with the appointments, etc. But again, perhaps one thing that they can consider is to be really drastic and using the current laws, appoint a new Chief Justice from someone who's outside from the judiciary.
Again?
Why not? Why not? Sometimes it needs someone from the outside to shake things up. Because if you're from within the institution, everybody knows you, you've known everybody for years, you're friends, it might be, it might be difficult for you to be the bad guy, to say, look, you got to do this, you got to do that. So it might be easier to get someone from outside who's willing to be the bad guy and just shake everything up. So that's one possibility. But that's only short term. In the medium term, we really need to find a manner where we can appoint judges in a way which is more independent from the executive.
Yeah, so I think a lot of time when people have no faith in our system, whether it's the judiciary or part of the enforcement, the whole legal system, it's also about the selective persecution of certain people or of certain fraction. But do you think, with today's latest development where we finally see Najib being arrested, slowly all this perception will be...
Yeah, I mean, it's a good start, isn't it? And it's not just him. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. You correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Isa Samad also arrested today?
Okay.
You better tell your people to check, and then they can speak in your earphone and confirm.
Yes, I think they hear you. I think they will be checking.
All right, let them check. We need to have a show of force against all forms of corruption. That's very, very important. There's no point catching the policeman who's taking 50 ringgit off you because you beat the red light. That's not, that's an issue, but that's no point. You got to, if the people high up, they haven't been convicted, if there are people high up who have committed gross corruption, and the accusations that we are seeing now, I mean, this is corruption on a biblical scale. If you don't catch these guys, then you don't have the moral authority to catch the little guys. And you're right, of course. The laws are always there, but they have been used selectively. now it's time to make sure that whoever has committed an offence is charged and is given a fair trial, and if found guilty, is punished sufficiently.
Do you think we'll have more people, brought to justice for their mistakes?
Well, I mean, apparently there's over 1,000 people who are being investigated right now.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
And if you look at the money laundering law, you can be implicated quite easily. Just by having knowledge, if you're, for example, a bank officer, just by having knowledge that something is not right and not reporting it, that's an offense already. So I think it's possible that we could be faced with a severe prison shortage where there's just not enough space in prison anymore.
Interestingly, because when we interview Lim Kit Siang right after the election, he mentioned something like an amnesty program for those especially who are involved in the corruption at different scale. Perhaps we should look into it.
That's a possibility. I mean, because a lot of the smaller figures might have felt that they had no choice, right? Because for fear of their own safety, for fear of for their jobs, for their futures. So no, that is something which has to be, some little bank officer.
Okay, just a little bank officer.
He or she might be terrified. He or she might say, "Look, I know this is not right, but who do I talk to? I'm terrified." Right. So maybe let's not be mad about this. All right. But the key thing is the big players, those who actually got a lot of corrupt money, or jewelry, or tiaras, or whatever.
Tiaras, right?
Yeah.
Don't know why.
These are the ones that there has to be a strong case against them. There has to be a lot of effort made to ensure that if they are guilty, they are found guilty and they're put away. Because I don't think the Malaysian public will settle for anything less.
So no immunity for Joe Lau?
No, definitely not. And I think he's from Penang, which is an embarrassment to me and every other Penang person. I mean, why can't he be from Perak or someplace like that? But yeah,
I don't think the Parakians will be happy.
I don't care.
Now.
I don't care.
They will give it back to you.
No,
Penang
I don't
Knights.
care. I don't care. But we've got to catch that fellow, man. Definitely.